Commissioner. Jose,
Yes.
go ahead and explain to us where you're going with the gauges. Go ahead and hook up the gauges
Okay.
and explain to us what you're doing there.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but since this is a heat pump, because it has a reversing valve, so there's no condenser or not evaporator. So it's an inside coil and outside coil. So each system works as the opposite side also, depending on the function. So we can hook up the gauges in our compressor here before the reversing valve. The compressor is still going to be the same because we have a discharge line and we have a suction line. So discharge line is going to be the thin one. So on the thin one, it goes the high pressure side. On the big line, it's a low pressure side. We're using low loss so we can access the ports with no problem. The reading right here is for the low side we have 175 psi, and then for the low side, for the high side we have 150. That's our static pressure. Once we turn it on, our pressure is going to change. And then on the high side we have 150. That's our static pressure. Right?
Yes. So that's static pressure. That means the machine isn't running, and that's one way you can tell whether your compressor is working. Sometimes you may hear the compressor running and the indoor fan running, but your pressures will, if they're the same, the compressor isn't working right.
Okay.
How did you figure out what was suction line and what was discharge line?
Oh, because the suction line is always thicker than the discharge line. Discharge line is high pressure. In order to keep the high pressure, you need a smaller line.
So where is the liquid line?
Our liquid line right here should be after the condenser, which in this case, if we're using it as a cooling system, should be the outside coil. This is the outside coil, so it's coming out from here, and it's going to this manifold or
Distributor.
header distributor, and it's going to through the TXV.
Through the TXV, but the TXV isn't acting as a metering device.
No, not in this case.
Right.
It has an internal check valve, so it should be going straight through the TXV
Correct.
without working as a metering.
Okay, so where is the liquid line?
The liquid line is right here, going through the filter dryer. So that's one of the ways that you
Here's an access for the pressure temperature, for the pressure with your gauges on this access there. What happens if you put your high side gauge here in order to take pressure temperature?
Is it going to be different reading there?
Nope, it's going to be the same.
Should be the same because it's connected.
But what's the difference between here and here?
There should be no difference, no? On pressure?
This is going to be vapor and this is going to be liquid.
Well, yeah.
And you got to be careful that when you take it off of here, if you were to go with this hose and put it on the liquid line, once you take it off, your hose will be full of liquid.
Oh.
So you want to take the liquid back and put it into the machine.
Okay.
That's why I would rather put the hose on the discharge line rather than liquid line. Then I don't have to mess around with taking the liquid out of the hoses.
Now, for self-cooling, it should be fine if we take the reading from here, right? It
No,
should be.
what is this?
That is the discharge line.
And what's the temperature on that going to be?
It's going to be pretty hot.
And what is this?
Liquid line.
And what's the temperature on that going to be?
It's going to be warm.
So how can, if you were taking the temperature on the discharge line, it'd be high, you'd be low on the on the liquid line. Subcooling goes, temperature of the piping is taken on the liquid line. If you were to take temperature of this discharge line, this is vapor, hot gas vapor,
Right.
so that would be superheat.
Right, but my question was to take the pressure instead of the liquid line right here, take it from the vapor line. Can we do that? To take
Yes, and it'll be this pressure, temperature, or saturation temperature will be the same in both places. The difference is temperature, when you take the temperature of the line, it's not going to be subcooling. The subcooling is taken from the liquid line.
Okay,
Okay?
got it.
On the thermostat, the room temperature is 70 degrees. So what do we have to set the thermostat to in order to get the machine running?
We have to lower the temperature than that if we wanted to make it run.
Lower than 70 degrees.
Correct.
Correct.
On cooling system.
Okay, it's cooling is on, calling for cooling. The machine isn't coming on because there is either there's either a delay in the thermostat or in the controls right here. And I don't see.
Don't see a delay.
So we have to wait for the time delays to elapse before it'll engage. Hear it?
Yep.
That was the reversing valve that we heard. The
Okay.
reversing valve is engaged. Some machines, the reversing valve is engaged for cooling. Some machines, the reversing valve is engaged for heating. And I'm trying to see where the wiring diagram is so we can figure that out. So the reversing valve is energized for heating, or is it? See if you can find a reversing valve over there. All right, we'll find it here in a minute. Let's take light sign. Now we're going to do light sign. So what do we have to do?
Check our pressures right now. Which I will say is the first thing. And what kind of refrigerant this one is using?
In order to find out what kind of refrigerant we are using and other information, we take a look at the plate, nameplate here. And the refrigerant, we look over here, see if we can find the refrigerant.
Oh, right here. You can barely see it.
Looks like somebody scratched it out, huh?
410A. So factory charge 7.7 pounds of R410A.
So, we use this scale on 410, which is the peak temperature.
Okay. Right now, low pressure is 125.
Low pressure 125.
High pressure is 245. Saturation temperature for the low side is, since we're using the pin chart for 410A, is 44 degrees. And for the high side, our temperature should be 80 degrees. Now, we need to get the readings. Since this one's working in cooling, our outside coil is going to be working as a condenser.
let's go over there. It's not that much far difference, but I want to explain something.
Okay. No problem.
That would have been fine. What's happening here, he was looking for the liquid line. The liquid line, is the liquid line the same for heating or cooling? Yes. So that's what we're doing over there. Here's another way of finding out which is your liquid line, because we have a liquid line filter dryer in there. It's bidirectional. The fluid is going to go this way into the metering device. If the outside coil is a evaporator, it's going to go this way. If it's cooling, because the inside coil will be evaporated. So
Okay. Now, in this case, we'll have to open the door to access to the evaporator.
because it's so close, the evaporator is so close to the compressor, you won't get that much difference from there to here. So we'll go ahead and take it on the compressor.
Okay.
What is suction line temperature?
The suction line temperature is 64 degrees. Yep, still 64 degrees. And then our discharge or liquid line is 84 degrees. Okay. So our differential for superheat is 20 degrees, and our subcooling is 4 degrees.
What I'm seeing here, this is discharge or saturation point.
Right.
If you go through if you find out what your saturation point, it should be warmer than the liquid line, right? Because what's the condenser doing? It's cooling down the refrigerant.
Correct.
So either we got something wrong or we read it wrong. 80 degrees. So we got 80 degrees on the saturation point on the high side. Let's see what we have over here. 84 degrees. That's kind of odd. So let's put the panel on this and see what happens.
Oh, because the airflow is now flowing
That's what I'm-
directly through the condenser.
So what is the saturation point on the high side now?
Okay, so now we have a different reading. So it's dropping. The needle is moving still.
It's dropping. Why is it? Oh, because we're cooling down the refrigerant even more.
Correct.
Because we got more, when we have the panel on here, we have more air going across it.
So we were having an issue. We were having a restriction through the.
Nope.
Creating a restriction.
No,
by removing the airflow.
because the temperature on the liquid line is still 84.
Okay.
So if it's 84 and this is dropping, you're still, the liquid is still warmer coming out of the condenser,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So what could be the issue there?
Refrigerant charge?
How about the gauges?
You think the gauge is a problem?
Probably. That's what we got to consider,
Okay.
because how can you run air across the refrigerant and the temperature comes up?
You think there's no problem with the charge whatsoever?
Well, let's investigate that.
Okay.
What's the air temperature? 70 degrees. Put outside air temperature on your station. 70 degrees. Now let's check the air differential going across the outside coil. Well, we know that's 70 degrees.
Right. 83 degrees.
So we're still removing heat from the coil.
Correct.
We're not gaining heat like that meter is telling us.
Okay.
We're still losing heat because the differential is 10 degrees. So there might not be an issue there. So differential, let's go ahead and write that down. Outside air would be 70. Leaving air is
83.
84, 80. I think it was 84, wasn't it?
It was 83 point something.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the evaporator? Let's see what the evaporators do. That's why you have to, if you just focus in on one area and make a decision to add refrigerant, remove refrigerant, or some other decision on one area, you can get yourself in trouble. That's why we take all the variables and see what we got. We take all the vital signs and see what is going on. See, it's still cooling. Let's check the supply air and return air. Well, return air is going to be 70. Well, maybe not. Why would it be? The ambient air is 70. Return air is.
So this is T1. This is return air is 54. And then T2.
That's probably supply air. That's return air. Supply air is going to be lower than return air.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So we got 71 and supply is
54.
54. Okay, let's go ahead and write those figures down. What is actually happening return air supply air is 54. Return was 7. Temperature difference is 16. General rule of thumb, temperature differential across the coil is 20. We got 14 and 16. That's pretty nice.
Okay.
What we don't have yet is and doing a touch test on the unit. What does this discharge line feel like? Be careful. When you touch it.
Discharge line.
Hot. The liquid line.
Oh, liquid line. It's warm.
Okay. And the suction line.
Suction line is cool. It's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
And even the TXV.
Heating device. It's inside right here. So, leaving the TXV is cold.
So even the TXV is cold. Suction line is warm. Is cool. The liquid line is warm, and the discharge is hot. Go ahead and put that in there. On there. Discharge. let's change that to meter MD.
Condenser.
Liquid line.
Liquid line was 1. Air temperature variable, that was 70, right?
Yes. Let me go get a. 50%.
50% humidity?
Yeah. Wet bulb is 50% relative humidity. Wet bulb is 60.
60 wet bulb. What about dry bulb?
70. Now with that information, we're going to find out what the target superheat is. Actually, we can't figure out what the target superheat because the TXV is what's controlling superheat.
All right.
If we needed the target superheat information, then we would be more concerned with a fixed meter device. But we're going to see what the target superheat or the target superheat should be, just to make sure that maybe the TXV is working like it's supposed to.
Okay.
What will make a TXV operating properly? If the TXV is one thing that may affect the TXV, there's no panel on here. Now that we're at it, what is the temperature one? Leave it off. What is the temperature pressure on the low side?
Low side we have 125 pSIG and our temperature or saturation temperature is 58, 59.
How about 40?
I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong chart. 42.
So it's not changed a whole lot. Still got it
Change
up
2
there.
degrees.
Let's take that panel off there. See what the temperature is. Pressure temperature is what?
Going down a little bit more. Now it's on 40. Keeps moving a little bit, but it stays about 40. Yep. So it went down another 2 degrees. So when we remove this panel, it went down 2 degrees. We remove this one, it also move another 2 degrees.
Now this isn't a whole lot. Depending on the temperature of the day, it will probably affect it a lot differently.
Okay.
We'll check that on another machine. What other information do we have that we want to get? So the main information that we gather with our instruments is the pressure, temperature, saturation, and the temperature going across the coils. And that's all we need.